Hey guys, in today's session we are going to learn UiPath apps and data service for beginners. I'm going to guide you step by step. First of all, let's open the browser and log into cloud.uipath.com. Once you have logged into cloud.uipath.com, on the left hand side we have to open UiPath apps. So this is the button where I need to click to open UiPath apps. So you can see the UiPath apps we have opened. Now we have to open data service. Click on three dots and then we have data service. So press and hold the control key on your keyboard and then click on data service so that it opens in a new window. Alright, the very first task that we are going to do, we are going to design something. So what we are going to design, we will design a student table in data service. Okay, now the student table will have few columns like name, and then it will have a standard like which standard he is reading, first standard, second standard, like that, and his photo. We'll only take only three columns. Okay, name, standard, and photo. In the name, right, so what is data service? If you are not sure, I'm going to show you, but let's understand. We will be creating a table in data service, so we will have three columns: name, standard, and photo. Now in the names we will keep it pretty simple. The student names, I'll keep it as A, B, C, D, E. Okay, and in the standard I will keep first standard. A is from first standard, B is from second standard, C is from third standard, and then fourth standard, and then fifth standard. Okay, so D is from fourth standard, E is from fifth standard, like that. And we are going to keep some photos of these students in the data service. Now to achieve this, let's go to data service first of all. Now the data service will appear like this. If you are coming for the very first time, it will be completely blank. Okay, now here I'll be clicking on something called create new entity. Here we have got a new word called entity. So what is entity? Entity means table. Okay, in this context, entity means table. Okay, so we'll be creating a table called student table. So entity means what? Table. So here it is telling you create a new table. Let me click on this, and then it is asking you what is the table name, what is the name of your table. So I'm going to give it as students, and then I'm going to click on save. So we have created what? We have created a simple table now. So if you see, a table got created. Now click on this table. Okay, so this table is currently blank. It shows some of the data here. For example, id column, created by column, updated by column. So these are system created columns, so don't worry about them at all. Okay, so right now your table is completely blank. There is no data in the table. Now what I said, we need to have three different columns. One is name, then standard, and then photo. These are the three columns we have to create. Now to create those three columns, we will go to the data service. There is something called create new field. I am going to click on this, and I'm going to first create the first field called name. This is the column name. Okay, so name column been created, and the type is text. Fine, I'm going to save this. So what we have done, we have created the very first column. So once you created a column, you can see it will be appearing under fields. It will appear here, and the type of the column is text type. It is going to hold the text type of data in this column. Let's create few more fields. What is the second field we want to create? That is standard. Which standard is reading? So this has to be a number type. Anytime you are selecting number type, click on this more details. Here is something called says decimal places. So that means if you are typing 1, it will say 1.00. So we don't want this. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to delete this decimal places, and then, or I will put it as 0 here, and then I'm going to hit on save. Okay, no decimal places. Now so what happened? We have created two columns, name and standard. Let's create our third column, which has to contain a photo of the student. So here I have created a column called photo, and the type I have to select is file. What is the type? File type, which can hold images. Okay, PNG, JPG, and all those kind of images it can hold. So I have selected file type, and if you click on more details, you will find the description role based field. So this is not required. We'll leave it as file and then hit on save. So now our table contains three columns: name, standard and photo. Name is text, standard is number and photo is a file type. Three columns. Let's go to the data. Have we entered any data? No, we have simply created three columns: name, standard, photo, but we haven't entered any data yet. So let's enter the data. For that, there is something called add data or add new data. Anywhere you can click. Let me click here. So first it is saying, hey, you have got three fields: name, standard and photo. So enter the details here. So for the student one, I'll be saying A. The name of the student is A. The standard he is reading is in first standard. And I am going to upload some photo. Now on your computer, you might be having some photo, right? Some photo just for experiment purpose, you can do that. So here I have kept few photos. Let me go to my pictures and student photos. So here I have designed some photos A, B, C, D, E like that. Okay, so A, B, C, D. So I am going to pick the first one for the student A, open. So what happened? Name I have typed his standard and I have selected the photo of the student A. I am going to save it. So the moment you save, what would happen? It is getting written in this students table. So you can see the ID, this is the system generated column. These are user generated columns: name, standard and photo. And you can see the name has come, the standard has come, and the photo has come. Now we will repeat it for rest of the. So let me show you one more. I'll be clicking on add data and I'll be selecting this. I'll be typing the B and the standard will be 2, and then select file from the computer. I'm going to select the photo. So I'm just filling out the table with the data and hitting on save. Okay, now you can see A, B also has come second and the photo has come. Likewise, I am going to quickly repeat for C, D, E. So we have entered A and B, right? These two data we have entered. Now C, D, E, let me enter quickly. Alright, now you can see A, B, C, D, E, all of the student details has been entered. Let's go back to UiPath apps. Here we will be creating a new app called student app. So I'm going to click on create new app and I'm going to name it as students app and click on create. Here it is going to ask you what kind of format you want. So I will go with a blank page. I'm going to hit on select. Alright, so now the blank page has appeared. Let's get started. The very first thing what we will do, the entity or the table that we have created will be adding into our app. For that, click on this drop down, click on entity, select your tenant, hit next, and here you have your table, students table. I'm going to select, and it is also going to show you what are the different fields there. I'm going to hit on add. Now the students table got added under the app, under our app students app, right? It is got added, and here you can see students. Now the student, if you click on the data, you'll be able to see all the data that is there in the entity now appearing inside the UiPath app. Clear? So we have imported the entity or the table into the UiPath App Studio. That's it. Now let's go to the main page. I'll go to the main page and here I'm going to start designing. For this, the very first thing what I will do, I'll click on this plus sign, go to the containers, and there is something called container layout. Container means what? A kind of a designing I would like to do. For example, here you can, this is the container layout. I'm going to drag like this. And if you click on plus sign, so I have created two different segments in the page. So if you hit on preview, you can see the two different segments are appearing. Okay, 1, 2. These are two different segments which are appearing. Now let's start designing. First of all, we will add a header to our page. Drag and drop a header on the top, and here let's write something. So let me write. Here you will have to write on the right hand side of the property panel. Okay, this is the property panel. So here I am going to write students database or student, yeah, something like that. So I'm going to give it a name called students app, student database, whatever you like to give. So here it is given. Now let's say I would like to put some background color to it. I will click on style, select this, and let me select some color. Okay, now let's say the text color, I want to make it slightly white, so let me select this. Okay, so now it has come properly. Let's keep it at the center. All right, so student database header has been created. So here I will click on this plus sign and I am going to type drop down. Okay, now in the drop down, while it is highlighted red in color, go to the property and look for the label. So here it is a label, so I'm going to change it, select student. Select student, so that means here in the drop down it should show all the list of the students. So how do I get the list of students? What are the name of the students? ABCD, right? So it should say ABCD when I click on this drop down. So how to get that? Now to get that, all you have to do, there is something called list source, right? List source. So I'll click on this field and type equals to symbol. And after typing equals to symbol, it will show you the entity that is imported into your app. So I'm going to double click on this. So what I'm saying, your source to look for the student is students table. Now in the student table, there are multiple columns. So which column I should look for? So name. So it should show only the names. So here I'm going to say, click on this students and then double click on name. So that means it will go to the students table and look for the name column, and whatever data is there in the name column going to appear in the drop down. Getting it? So let's hit on preview and see how it is appearing first of all. Now if I go to the student database, right, here you can see all the names of the students has appeared. Okay, so I can select anything I need. Now the moment user selects something, below I wanted to see his grade, which standard he is reading. I would like to see his photo. The moment I select, so this will act like an input. The moment I select something, it should show me which standard he is reading. Then it should show me the photo. And this standard and photo is available in the table, right? Standard and photo for each student is available. Now, how do I pull this data and show it in the app is the learning. That is what we are going to learn. Okay, now to achieve this, I'm going to drag and drop a text box. Okay, this was a drop down control. So simply type text and there is something called text box. Drag and drop the text box here. Now once you drag and drop the text box, in the label, I will change it to standard. So it will show the standard, right? Standard of the student. So here it says standard. Now this should not be, it should not allow anybody to type. So I want to disable it. So it will act like a display box. Generally in a text box you can type it, right? So if I make disabled is equal to true, it will become grayed out. So it will be acting like a display box rather than a text box. Okay, let me show you how it is going to appear. So you can see this drop down and this has become a display box. That means I'm not allowed to type anything because I have disabled it. Okay, all right. So this one is done. Now how do I pull the data? The moment I select student A, it should pull the data of student A, which standard he is reading. Now to do that, first select the drop down, go to the events. Okay, now click on create rule, and there is something called set value. It is more like a assign activity, set value. So click on set value. Here item to set. What we will do, we'll click on this, scroll down, there is something called app variable. In the app variable, I'm going to create a variable called standard. So I'm going to create a app variable called standard. So which standard he's reading I want to know. So I have created a variable called, like you create a variable ABCD, right? The same way I have created a variable called standard. Now there is no data type you have to mention here, integer or what kind of, no need to do that. Simply create a variable. Now this variable once created, I'm going to double click. So here I have kept the standard variable in this item to set rule. Okay, now here how the standard variable will get some value. So for that, simply type equals to, and we are going to use a function called lookup. It is going to look up. So you have heard about lookup, right? In Excel we do lookup, VLOOKUP and all that. Similar way, it is going to search for the data. So this, how I am writing, is very important. Okay, so what I did, let me do it again. So what I did, equals to symbol, and then scroll down to the function area. This is the function, right? Scroll down, and here you find something called lookup. Okay, so I want to pull single records. So for that I'll be using lookup. Filter means it is going to pull multiple records, multiple matches. It is going to pull only one record. So for that I'll be using lookup. Okay, lookup. Now lookup, how I will do, lookup and then put a equals to symbol. Let me do it again. Double click on the lookup, and then while you have that, so put open parenthesis, close parenthesis. Now inside that I have to write something. What I have to write? Hey, which source I have to pull. So look up, and then you have to mention the source. So from where it should look. So the source is students table. Then put a comma. After that I have to write a condition. So for condition I'll put two square brackets. Okay, comma and then two square brackets. Now inside the square bracket I have to say, hey, when somebody is selecting the name, right, the name in the drop down, right, when somebody, so the student name contains the name of all the students. So when the student name comma, then within double quotes put a equals to symbol, and then put a comma, is equals to anybody selecting from the drop down. So if you click on the main page, there is something called drop down selected value. Now let's understand it properly. So what I'm saying, whatever is selected in the drop down, let's say in the drop down somebody has selected value C, the student C. So C, it will check in the students table where is C in the student dot name column. So for example, it will check here, it will come, okay, C is here in the name column. Now when C is here, I want the standard. So for that, all I have to do, simply have to write here standard dot, and then I'll go to the entity and click on standard. So that means it is going to pull the student standard. Okay, so this expression understanding is important. All right, now once this is done, student, okay, this square bracket, right? So what I did, this square bracket has to be written, there has to be comma here, and the square bracket has to end before this. Okay, okay, clear? Look at this, comma, square bracket, your entire condition should be inside this square bracket, and then you close your parenthesis. Okay, this is how you will have to write. All right, so this is done. So now the standard value will be carried over to the standard variable, and all I have to do in the standard text box, go to the general, and here there is something called value binding. I will click on this and I will select the R variable. So the value will come from here, and that will getting passed to this one. Now let's have a preview and see how it is working. You will understand. Okay, now look at it. I'm going to select, let's say D. So what would happen? The D is from 4th standard, correct? No. Now if you look at the table, D is from the 4th standard. D is from 4th standard. Okay, it is coming correctly. Now let me select A. So A is from 1st standard, we know. Now let's select E. E is from 5th standard. Okay, so all the data is getting pulled automatically. So isn't it not interesting? It is. Now let's look at the other thing. How do I get the photo of it? Photo of the student. Now to get the photo of the student, it is pretty simple. I am going to add an image control. Just type here image, and this is the image control. I am going to drag and drop. Now this image, I want to restrict the size. Okay, how big it should come. So here I will select this. I'll go to the style, and I will select the size. I will remove this auto, and I'm going to select the pixel, and I'm going to put some pixel like, let's say 200. Okay, and then here also I'll select pixel, and I'm going to say 200. Okay, so I have fixed the size of the photo. Now the same thing we have to do when anybody selects the student. I'll repeat the similar activity that we have done for standard. The same thing we have to do here. I will click on this plus sign, set value, and then I'll create a variable called photo. Okay, and I'm going to use the variable here. Now let's write the function once again. So I will say lookup, and I'm going to provide the source from where it should look up. The source is what? Our entity table. So select the entity name, then put a comma, then you have to write two square brackets. Inside the square bracket, I have to say the student. In the entity, there is a column called student, comma, double quote, equals to symbol, and once again put a comma, and then this should be matching with anything selected from the drop down. So I will select drop down. Okay, drop down should match with the name of the students. Then if it matches, then put a dot here. Pull me what? Pull me the photo. Pull me the photo. So for that, I will simply say I'll go to the entity, and I'm going to say photo. Pull me the photo, student's photo. Done. Now once it pulls, the data will be there in the photo app variable. Let me close this. For this one, click on general, and there is something called value binding. Here I am going to simply select what? The app variable. So put a equals to symbol and select the app variable photo. Done. Now let's have a preview and see whether it will be able to pull the image of the student or not. Okay, so in the database, I am going to click, let's say, B. So what happened? B standard has come and the photo also has appeared. Let me select, let's say, A. Now you can see the standard has changed and the photo is also got updated. Let me select E. Now the standard has changed and the photo is also getting updated. So you have learned a very fantastic thing of how to build a student database with this demo, UiPath apps in data service. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions around this, please do comment. I will try to reply to them. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.